There we go. Can you hear me now? All right, we will call to order the Brainerd Park Board meeting at City Hall, 501 Lower Street, City Council Chambers, Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022 at 4 o'clock p.m. And I think we need a roll call.
Okay. Tim Boder,
Hello.
Kara Schaefer,
Yes.
Andrew Scheip,
Here.
Kevin Yeager,
Yes.
and Troy Rushmeyer.
Yes. So stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do they still do that in school every day?
I don't know.
They can.
All right, we have the agenda in front of us. We have a motion for approval.
So move, Yeager. Second, Shape.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda approved. Consent calendar, notice of public. All matters listed are considered routine by the board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Page 23, there's like red boxes around a couple of the numbers. I was just curious with that, why those were called out, with those red boxes. What were we supposed to?
Oh, like pipe and repairs, thing like that?
It's at the
Contributions.
bottom of the sheet. It's just showing that those are close to going over budget.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
okay. I think we are ready to roll.
Motion to approve the consent calendar, Yeager.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Karen? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, none being heard. Let's get started. Just before we get going, I'm gonna try to speed things along because I have to leave at 5:15. So if we're not finished, Kevin, will you mind taking over?
Absolutely, Mr. President.
Okay, quitter. Clear. Thanks, man. New business, MLT Park Project update.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome home.
Hey, Paul.
Matt could not come tonight, so you get me. So work completed last month, or work completed in general. The park got really tidied up here in the last month before freeze up. Kind of the last thing that the contractor did was stabilize the soils on the park ground after all the rain we had. They were able to get stabilization down before it snowed, so we were really lucky there. Everything is basically, as far as the site work, you can consider that kind of complete except for the final stabilization. So they sprayed that material on there to hold the soils in before the winter time, and then that next spring they'll come in and sod and final seed everything. And so that's just a temporary measure to keep the soils in place while we have runoff in the spring. The only concrete work that's remaining on site is at the amphitheater. There's landings on the amphitheater steps that go up the sides. We're waiting on those pesky block caps yet to be able to do those. So that's at the river steps and at the amphitheater landings. Those are coming in slowly, and as they get them, they've been putting them in, but now it's too cold to put concrete in. So that concrete will not happen until the springtime when it kind of unthaws. If you've been out there lately, you'll see that there are roof truss structures on the Learning Center and on the bathroom structure. That's kind of the next step that they're working on. And they should be, they're going to go pretty fast. You can see that stuff went up in about a week, the stuff that they did on site. We had a meeting with the contractor just to go over all the remaining kind of submittals for the roof structures to make sure they're in line with park board standards, and we're all good on that front. stormwater pond was excavated. Like I said, the site really took shape once they got the concrete work finished. All the site electrical is done. They have the park lights erected. Planned activities for the next couple of months during the wintertime. You're going to see those roof structures take shape. You're going to see the restroom structure kind of get wrapped up, along with the interior finishes. You're going to see the placement of the site furnishings, like the benches, the dog stations, and the play area. They have the logs and everything for that. They blanketed that area so it stayed thawed, so they can work on that as time allows. And then come springtime, it'll be sodding, restoration, and final cleanup on site. Project cost update, we've provided that in every memo. I think there's probably some conversations that need to be had about that remaining project funds. I think Jesse mentioned that you guys were going to be talking about that at some point. As far as change order 8 that got denied at the last park board meeting, we went back to the drawing board and kind of reviewed all when the submittals got submitted, when they got approved, who approved them. That change order probably should have never came forward to the park board. We are taking responsibility for that. We will talk with the electrical subs and see if they're willing to hand those lights over. So the electrical subs are going to likely bear the cost of that change order based on their approval of those lighting fixtures to go on the steps. Those lights will be able to be used by the park board at some point in the future. We have no reason to keep them, and so those could go in to replace the amphitheater in the blocks. There are the same lights in those blocks. And so we're working with the electrical sub and the contractor. We're just going to take care of that outside of the contract with the city and figure out a way to cover those costs that the contractor incurred by not being able to return those original fixtures based on lead time issues. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions?
It looks cool down there. I mean, I hadn't been down there since they had it closed off for a long time, and just be able to see the river is, we're actually making use of the most famous river in the world finally in this town. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I go without saying that, from a finish, like a fit and finish standpoint, the contractor that we have, fantastic quality work. I haven't seen that amount of detail in concrete work, and the amount of time, while it took a while for them to do the concrete work, and it was a lot longer than anyone anticipated. From a fit and finish standpoint, I think that their work is by far the best I've seen from a concrete contractor, and so far from what I've seen from a building contractor standpoint, they are very meticulous, they want to deliver a home run park, as do we, being WSB. So that's, I will say that the contractor on site, we've had our ups and downs with them, and that's, but we've worked through everything, and we think it's going to be a really good product at the end of the day. So,
Nice.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks for the explanation on that change order 8. Much appreciated.
yep, no problem. Thank you.
Next line item is the 2023 fee schedule. Dr. Dean, is this your?
Yes, sir. So this is kind of our annual task of just reviewing and revising as needed the upcoming year's fee schedule, especially ahead of people starting to get in their reservations. The only changes that we have recommended are the changes that we brought to the previous park board meeting with the additional administration fees for cancellations at the campground as well as the pavilions. As of right now, we're not proposing any changes. I believe next year, staff wages may be a consideration that we have to look at, and that might be something that we have to evaluate if these fees are appropriate for the staff time and what we're paying our maintenance staff, our administration staff. So we'll probably review this again next year if we need to make adjustments based on that.
Any questions, comments? Kevin?
Just real quick question.
As far as, and I know this is ahead, but reviewing the compensation for staff, it was my understanding that when we made the decision to turn the staffing compensation some time ago over to city, over to admin at the city to oversee that. So I'm just curious about why it's coming back to us. It is my understanding that we no longer control that's part of the step process, it's part of what is handled through HR and so forth.
Yep, so there's just a couple things that are based on staff, I believe, what was it, field maintenance and stuff like that.
Are you talking about seasonal workers?
Or fees.
Seasonal workers or fees, I guess it depends on which ones are related to staffing. If there's some that have staff hours that have to go into it, just making sure that's appropriate for, let's call it the average wage that we're paying our maintenance staff, to make sure that we're covered, we're not taking like a loss based on putting our maintenance staff out there.
Okay. It's future conversation anyways, but
Yep.
I was just curious about that.
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as is, correct, Karen?
Yep. As is, Kara.
Is that what I said? Almost. You have a second?
I can second it, and then I have one question.
Okay, go ahead, Andrew. You have a second with a question.
Classic procedure. I just noticed on the proposed fee schedule, the pavilions, oh, shoot, where'd it go? Oh, open space, Gregory Park Bandstand or Pergola area. That set at $50, but then the facility rental form today said it's $50 if you're a vendor. It's $0 if you're a member of the public. I feel like there's sort of a disconnect between this document and the form that's available to the public.
Follow up with that.
I didn't hear the response.
No, I'll follow up with it. I can't tell you which way it says, but I'll look at it, make sure it's coordinated correctly.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. So we still have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with the follow-up. Next is the proposed meeting schedule for next year, 2023.
Motion to approve, Yeager.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Haha, you gotta be here next one.
Yes, 5:15 is coming. All right. Next agenda is the proposed 2023 budget.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So this is just another review of the proposed budget to go to the council at I believe it's the first meeting in December. I know the park board requested that we didn't want to look at capital very hard until we knew what the ARPA recommendations were. We do have those recommendations. So the city council put together $575,000 in ARPA recommendations for the 4 projects, and the council prioritized them as JC's Park for $200,000, Lone Park Beach for $150,000, Kiwanis Park Clearing at $75,000, and then finally Lone Park Campground at $150,000. And I believe the guidance from the council was, if after working through these, if bids come in above the number and the 575 does not cover these 4, it would be for the park board to come back to the council and request additional funds as needed. And then it'll be up to the council if they wanted to issue additional funds from ARPA to fund the remaining shortfall. So with that in mind, we do have the proposed budget here. Nothing's really changed since the last time we discussed this. From an operations standpoint, I think we're in a really good spot with the operational budget, with the recommendation. It would be my recommendation to take a look at the capital, and with what's being offered up in ARPA, and knowing that we still have some more master planning to do, prioritize the Memorial Park lights as I call a major capital ask, and then let's take a year and revisit Memorial Park concession building and the J.C.'s Park concession building, those two facilities at a future year once we've finished all of our master planning at another time.
Okay. Yep. Did everyone have a chance to look at this prior to today? With that being said, we probably can leave it on there, but I know we also talked about potentially leaving the demo of the warehouse and the two pavilions at Lum Park, especially since we haven't got the master plan done for Lum Park yet. And the shelter, I believe, for Memorial Park. So we could potentially, Mayor Bedeau, unless you have something that you know of that as far as
No, if,
hiding in the wings there, but I mean,
I don't think so. I think if you're going to pursue the lights, then that's probably the best course of action is move forward with your planning, make sure that you're getting things exactly the way you want it. Because right now that ask is probably too high. So if you're moving forward with that 400,000 for the lights, that looking at pushing things back is the right maneuver.
any other comments? Kevin?
One quick comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I was looking at this list, there's just one thing that kind of stuck out to me is we bumped the gazebo at Buster Park back yet again. And in my opinion, this is a greater need than the Memorial Park shelter. So if they're roughly about the same money, it's my opinion we would swap out the gazebo at Buster for the shelter at Memorial. That's all.
And what was that?
The shelter at the the gazebo at Buster, we had a rough number in there of like 25 grand. We bumped it back. It was in our original budget, and we had roughly 30 in there for our shelter. And I'm just proposing that we swap those two. We do the shelter we do the gazebo this year, or put it in our budget for next year, excuse me, and then cycle back in the shelter at Memorial into our master planning with Memorial. So not really a money change, just a project change in the coming year.
Okay. I just want to clarify, you're putting the dogs ahead of the people here?
I'm putting the people who own dogs ahead of the people here.
I just wanted to
And how much do they pay back to the city? Those are people at Memorial Park?
But I don't know. I don't have that. I don't know.
What, any comments on this proposal from Kevin? Anyone else? Andrew, did I hear you say something?
I like Kevin's idea. I had a different idea, but I'll round this one out.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
I think waiting on the J.C.'s warming house also makes sense. Like we have a good plan to make those field usable and have the rink go up.
Yeah, I think Jesse brought that up, didn't you?
That would be my recommendation,
Yeah.
is to wait on those two
yeah,
facilities.
he did.
The
Sorry, get back to
$250,000 ones.
Yep.
Cool. So I put that as the memorial concessions in my head. My bad. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so, there'd be the J.C.'s, that's 150, the Memorial concessions, there's 300 grand right there. And then we have 75,000 above that at Lum Park. And then Kevin's proposing changing the 30,000 for the shelter at Memorial Park, leaving it on there, and changing that to the Buster Park gazebo. The one question I have is the shade structure at Triangle Park. How necessary is the shade structure at Triangle Park? Kevin?
I'll speak, Mr. Chair. In my opinion, it's reckless to spend the money on the shade structure now just because we just don't have a grasp of our master planning. In my opinion, this would be a great one to just put off as well until we really get a better grasp of what our master planning looks like and what our priorities are, and then the values attached to them. So I'd be fine either way.
Agree with that.
I agree with that as well.
Mr. Chair, if I can clarify that too, I've heard comments that the 10,000 might be a light number, so it'll give us some time to talk to some vendors and just make sure that we got a good number in the budget too.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be 40 by next year. We started out at 7,000 for the gazebo at the dog park, and now we're at 25, so, Kevin, you had mentioned the gazebo at the dog park. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, is that our only motion happening here, or do we wrap these all up into one motion?
Okay, here's what I'm hearing, that we remove the concession fund funds, the fees for the J.C.'s Park concession, 150 grand. All three for Lum Park, that's 75,000. Concessions at Memorial Park, 150,000. Shelter at Memorial Park, that's 30,000. All of those would be removed, along with the Triangle Park shade structure. And then we would add 25,000 for the dog gazebo at Buster Park.
I think that's right.
Is 25 still light for Buster?
We had 30 in there for the memorial shelter. We could leave it at 30. Or the number's the same, but
Yeah, I feel like we've cut enough that we could probably bump that number up a little bit, so we're not trying to find the basement bid.
So is that gonna, so we're gonna spend all of our money at one park that we already just spent money at? I know lights are important, but I'm just thinking of the community. What if people have kids that they don't ever use the lights?
What we're doing here is if they allow those ARPA funds to come to us,
Okay.
then we can do all those things that we had prioritized through the ARPA funds.
Okay.
And then, they're asking us to cut back on these other issues at this point. So we're still moving forward on stuff that we prioritized. It's kind of a give and take here, I think, is what we're trying to accomplish. Because I'm guessing, Mayor Bordeaux, correct me if I'm wrong, or Director Dean, we can leave it at 952,000, but it's probably not gonna stay there. Is that a
Yeah,
fair
I would,
assumption?
I would take that as a very fair assumption.
Okay. All right,
Mr. Chair, if I can clarify one more piece. On the Memorial Park lights, I did discuss that matter with the P&F committee, and their comments were they do want us to follow the typical budgetary process, that it gets adopted into the capital budget before it goes out for solicitation and bid. So that was the guidance from the council. I did talk to the vendor with Musco this afternoon. He did make me feel a little bit better about the timing, that the longest, I'll call it delays on acquiring the poles is about 12 weeks is the longest they've seen. So even if we wait until December for the budget to be adopted, we will still have plenty of time going through the bid process that those lights would be available to us in spring to put up.
okay. Very good. And did they say at a discount price or anything like that?
He did not say a discount price. However, it was going to save it to my report, but he will be present at the next park board meeting to address all the different questions and concerns about those lights.
Thank you for checking into that. Appreciate it. Are we at a spot where somebody would like to make a motion on this budget, or,
I'll give it a whirl, Mr. Perez.
okay?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed budget with the following amendments. To remove the concession warming house restroom at J.C.'s for $150,000. To remove the Lum Park warehouse office demo, Pavilion 1, Pavilion 2, for a sum of $75,000. To remove the Memorial Park shelter for $30,000, and to add the Buster Dog Park shelter for $30,000. And I so move.
Do you?
Did I miss something?
Do you want to modify that to add removal of the concessions locker room for 150,000 for Memorial?
I will make that amendment.
And the 10,000 for the structure in Triangle Park?
I will make both of those amendments.
Okay.
I told you I'd take a crack at it. I didn't say I'd get it.
Second, Shipe.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So am I right in calculating this at like 390? Is that what we removed? Or is my math off on that?
330, 75,
And then the addition of the,
Add 30 back in?
yeah,
405
Yep.
removed?
you were correct.
Okay.
No. 375, 385, 385,000. Right?
The 385 reduction.
Yep.
That puts us under 6, that seems a little more feasible, you think?
yeah, I think that with the decision of the lights, you're putting yourself in a position where you have to remove the other items. It's going to be a this or that type of scenario. So
The total request for capital, not including ARPA, would be 562,500.
Little smaller pill to swallow. Okay, we have a motion and a
Coming up
second.
with 430. How much you coming up with?
My,
Oh, I did it. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. We have a different total, but it'll get worked out.
it's 385,000.
More than
isn't
that.
it?
We got 330 plus 75 plus 10.
We're putting 30 back in.
The 30 was in there. We just moved it from the shelter.
Right.
So I just 30 plus 75 plus 10.
375 plus 10 is 385,000.
415 is what I'm coming up with.
It's somewhere along there. I just wanted to make sure we are close to the 400,000.
Yep, 415 is what I got.
I believe I had it at 390 because I was transferring the 25 and the 30 as opposed to a flat 30.
Right here, 300.
And then this, 75.
Bird does math.
375 plus
Yep.
10 is 385. Where are you getting the other 20?
Yeah. I think that's in Connie's wheelhouse.
Oh, that's because of the 30. Yeah, that's right.
385,000.
Yep.
I just want to clarify that I was correct in my math.
We got it.
On the record now.
Need a motion for that, or?
We had a motion already.
No,
I amended it twice. Oh, yeah.
Let the record show.
Let the record show. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. None being heard, motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Next line item is the discussion on MLT Park amphitheater rates and policies.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So as we're still working on this park, but we're getting to a point where we might be starting to look for reservations throughout the next summer for the amphitheater structure. So something that Carrie helped me out quite a bit was doing some research on comparable amphitheater facilities and what types of rates that people put there for rentals. And so I put in the memo kind of a table of different types of charges. So generally what you see is either an hourly or a daily charge. And a good amount of them have differences between whether a resident is reserving it or a non-resident is reserving it. So looking at those things, I do have a number put in here. From our perspective on an administration standpoint, I think the daily is the more appropriate way to assign that fee. It's really tough for us to I'll call it enforce an hourly fee of when somebody's showing up versus when they're leaving, and did they pay appropriately? It becomes a little bit more of a chore. The daily one makes more sense when you have time that they have to set up, take down. You're looking at probably a half day anyway. So we felt like daily was the more appropriate of the two. The cancellation policies, we felt like were, to keep it simple, to kind of keep it similar to what we have now for the campground, kind of keep those same administration fees for cancellations. Depends on where you look at. They're all over the board. Some of them it's all prepay and you get some of that back. Some of it's like, I think Detroit Lakes has a $25 non-refundable. So we felt that the administration fee for the cancellation was probably appropriate, although I think the amphitheater is going to be very difficult to reprogram if somebody does cancel on us. So that one would be a challenge. The one thing I did include in here in the recommendation was an insurance. Detroit Lakes requires a $500,000 liability insurance to reserve the amphitheater. I thought this was a good idea, one to make sure that we were covered in case of damages to that nice facility. If somebody hangs something from the roof rafters and they come crashing down, that they are covered generally. While this does limit the amount of the types of people that can reserve this, because now you're going to be, I guess, kind of limited to places like the center that do carry a $500,000 liability insurance. In my mind, it was more of a Johnny's birthday party. Probably doesn't need to reserve the amphitheater. those are the kinds of things that probably aren't going to carry $500,000 liability insurance. So if Johnny's birthday party wants to have a musical entertainment, maybe a pavilion's probably more appropriate than that big amphitheater that's got seating for hundreds. Maybe that's more suited for a bigger event from like the center doing a musical event rather than a small birthday party. So I thought the liability kind of helps cover us just in case of damages like that. So that's kind of how we came up with the numbers that we did with that recommendation. The other piece of the policies that we have listed in here, because it is next to that high rise, we've had some concerns about what that facility is going to sound like, especially for the residents there. So coming up with a policy that kind of addresses those concerns. And we came up with the idea of, similar to how when we have an event or street closure application, those all go to the city council for approval. We felt very similar to having them fill out an application for reserving the amphitheater, and then that goes to the park board for review. Obviously, we have to be very careful that we don't discriminate based on what the use is. If you don't like rock music, you can't just say you don't want them there because you don't like rock music. But if there are concerns, this allows them a public forum to be able to address some, like if the high rise has some concerns about a certain use, that they at least have that public forum and that opportunity to express those concerns. Like I said, whether or not you can really discriminate and say, nope, you can't use it because we really don't like you, probably can't do that, but at least this allows for them to share that opinion, and it's out in a public forum. So we felt that that was an appropriate way to do those applications, that they do come to the park board. And because we're talking about kind of maybe more larger events, I would assume that they're a little bit more planned in advance, so we shouldn't have an issue of getting to the next park board meeting to review those applicants. Some of the other things, obviously, abiding by city code and city ordinances like the noise law, and making sure that they're probably not after 10 o'clock. Now, if the park board wants to say, you know, 10 o'clock's pretty late, we don't want them using it after 8, 9 o'clock, whatever the case is. We can make those rules and make that change if we want to. Right now, I just have it as as in compliance with the city code. So if we want to be more restrictive than the city code on the use of that facility, we absolutely can. Things like no alcohol. These are kind of blurbs that we would put in the application and say, you must comply with city code regarding noise. You must comply with city code regarding no alcohol in the parks. Just good reminders for those people that are using those facilities that these are some of our requirements for that. The other things that we could put in there, parking, we could have them tell us about how many attendees that they have, and if they're going to have like 100 people, what's their parking plan going to be? Because obviously we do have on-street parking adjacent to it, but we don't have on-street parking for hundreds. So are they going to reach out to the school district and see if they can't use their parking at the bottom of the hill? Are they going to just utilize on-street? What kind of plan they have depending on how many people that they're anticipating for attendance. So that would be something that we might include with the application as well. The other thing we can also do is notify that the high rise whenever there is a performance of when that's going to happen, so that they're at least aware that there's Battle of the Bands on whatever day, so that they can be prepared for that. But other than that, that was kind of all my thoughts and between fees and policies. So I'd open it up to comments and questions.
Thank you, Director Dean. Before I turn it over, I have some of my own that I want to voice before I forget as I'm getting older. But as far as it's a new amphitheater, so I think we just have to keep in mind, we don't even know what we're going to see here. You know, are we going to have people that want to have comedy tour at some night, or a play, or local bands, and then with the $500,000 liability, I'm just throwing these things out there. Are we restricting, as you had mentioned, are there certain things that really might want to come in there that maybe won't have the funds? Or, are we also going to say, are you selling tickets, and they're gonna make a bunch of money? Do we care? I mean, and I personally don't, but, and then it's same with the codes. Starting out, I'd hate to restrict this too much right out of the gate because, again, we don't know. If we just say none of this, for instance, I'll use the Arts in the Park. I think we sold alcohol there this last summer for the first time, correct?
No, we did not. That's a sticking point. The city had a long discussion about whether or not that is an allowed use, and it'll be brought back up to the city. But as of right now, there are some within the city that believe that we are not allowed to have alcohol on our
Okay.
premise.
All right. So just some concerns I have with this, it's new to the community and, the other part, I was looking at this almost thinking, are we underselling it? I mean, it's not a regular pavilion, it's an amphitheater, are these fees not large enough? But those are just some of my thoughts, and then I'll open it up to the rest of you. If you have any comments, concerns, questions. Mr. Yeager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm kind of along the same thinking here. This is a multifaceted conversation. This is way beyond, I think, what we can easily make a decision on today. I'm feeling like this needs to be either some version of a work session or an organized meeting with not only us, but the HRA who runs the North Star, the original design team, Don Gorham, and the team who had the original vision for this park. And there's a lot of participants here that I think very well should at least have a voice. Ultimately, we're the controlling body of this, but I feel we owe it to a fair amount of our neighbors and participants in the process to at least, flesh this out just a little bit further. And I'd like to see it kind of broken apart in sections from fees to parking to noise to all signage to all of those aspects that could potentially come up from this. And the only other thing I'd like to add in is that I think we should potentially consider differentiate a little bit of a different fee structure for nonprofit organizations versus for-profit organizations. We might at least talk about a 501c3 versus somebody who wants to come in and sell tickets and make profit. So, but there's everything from trash to all of that. Who's going to run these events? How we're going to manage this this monster? And I just feel like it's a special meeting of some sort, whether it's town hall, work study, whatever. But that's my 2 cents, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anyone else? Andrew?
Do you want to go, James?
Yeah, I just wanted to make you guys aware of Detroit Lake. So I kind of grew up there during the summertime. They have a kind of a similar amphitheater, I believe. One thing that I don't know if you guys have thought about, but I know there's a couple weddings that I did attend there. So their amphitheater was being used for weddings. I don't know if that's a concern or something you guys are interested in, but they were booking them for weddings.
Thank you.
Again, you don't know yet what's gonna be.
That's my point, I think it's such a big bear that,
I've been out of the daily insurance business, since I covered the racetrack for a minute. We used to have daily and weekly rentals for someone would come in and use the grandstand or whatever, bring a band or whatever, for insurance. So why couldn't we just put those fees into the rental unit originally? Whether it's $150 a day or whatever it might be for insurance.
Yeah, so insurance-wise, like from community action standpoint, when we will do something at, say, Gregory Park for Arts in the Park, you're probably looking at $200 to $300, maybe $350 for insurance, depending on what it is. It's not a huge fee, but I would definitely look at that. If you're going to require that, then the usage of the stage itself, I mean, you don't want to set that too high because then it becomes unattainable.
right.
So I would venture to say 300 is a good mark to say for someone if they're going to be required to find insurance around that price range. And maybe you vary that, like Kevin said, maybe it's a for-profit, nonprofit type of thing. But even for us, we are a nonprofit, but when we do Arts in the Park, that's a fundraiser for us. So we do bring in revenue off of that. So, but yeah, I would just be aware of that. If the insurance is included, that is a chunk that group will have to take on right away in order to rent it. So
And there may be a way to add an additional separate policy onto the city of Brainerd spaces that would cover things coming and going. We just have to talk through that with city staff. I'm sure.
Yeah, the city's insurance will cover most things from the city side of things, but it's just whether or not you want to have that additional coverage for something that you. The only other thing I'd like to comment on is I would really like to see us not have some kind of parking restrictions, because we don't do that with any other park. And, you know, you look at baseball tournaments, or again, Art in the Park, you look at what the parking ends up being with that, it's just too much for the city to manage.
Yeah. And it's a long road. Get a lot of vehicles in there. Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I can add a comment to your point, Mayor, you could also make it an option if you already carry the liability insurance. That's a discount for you, and if you don't, you could pay the extra fee for the daily insurance.
Yeah, I think we should double check to see what the case is, but I do know that our insurance does cover a lot of stuff within the parks in case there is an accident. That's why we have insurance. But, yeah, the daily stuff is typically like $250, $300.
Any other? Andrew?
I had a couple thoughts. If someone were to rent this for multiple days, we might want a policy on overnight storage, and that we're not responsible if somebody steals your stuff. And then if we wanted to rent out the education center on the weekends as like Timmy's birthday, right? Could you rent that near the river steps to have the party, right? As long as we're not interfering with educational opportunities, but thinking weekends are probably safer. Like, if you want to rent that, more power to you. Yeah. Why don't we let you, so.
That is something we were talking about too, about that possible interference. And I think if we would know that the amphitheater was rented for a certain weekend and somebody wanted to rent the learning center, we would make them aware, hey, this is also occurring the same weekend. You're welcome to still do it. It's just be aware that there's this event happening too.
Yeah, I think with all these concerns, it kind of goes back to what Kevin was saying is, I really think since this is something new for the whole community, new structures that we haven't really dealt with before, that some meetings just for this would be prudent, I believe, to talk through some of these issues that we brought up. And I don't see any reason why we can't do that this winter and working through the winter and try to have something, as soon as we can, but not to, I just think we have to be careful that we don't come out of the gate and say only these people, only this certain can use this facility and go from there.
Has anyone contacted us yet to reserve it? Okay.
I am contacting you right now. I would like the 3rd and the 4th of July.
Well, and I was also thinking of the
I've already
center,
been
too.
asked.
Bring corn.
No, there are people asking, yes.
Yeah. Well, the center, I don't remember if she mentioned that she was
Don
wanting to
Gorham
move
has
it.
some ideas on some events there as well, so.
Yeah. But no, I agree with all you guys mentioned everything I would have said too. So.
Yeah, and with that being said, Don Gorham had sent me an email, concerned that they would like to, they're happy with what we've done as a park board, but they would like to, Jesse, I forwarded that to you, be involved, him and Eric and, is it John, I think, moving forward with the additional planning of what's left with the funds on that park. And I think that's a fair thing to do, is to include them. They've had a lot of input, a lot of time in this thing before it ever got to us, so we could certainly include them in this discussion as well.
When does that money have to be spent? The rest of the,
December 24, I believe. Does that sound right, Mr. Dean?
okay.
I believe it was the end of this next year.
Oh,
So-
I think it's 24, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I'll
We
have
have
to
at
double
least
check it.
three.
So I was gonna follow that up in my report as well as, I did get the original application for the LCCMR grant. So as long as we fall within the scope of that grant application, we're able to expend those funds just about however as long as they fit within that framework. We can change that with an amendment. There is a process to that. The nice thing is we are in a nice stent here that the project is going to continue into spring. We have some time over this winter to allow us to go through that amendment process if there is desire to expend those funds in a way that's not covered in the grant, that we can work with the DNR and whoever else to make those amendments if needed.
All right.
Motion?
Well,
I don't know that we,
I would think we should talk about what this meeting might look like. So I'd like to ask Mr. Dean if we're sensing that this is more of a town hall style meeting. Is it a special park board, a task style meeting in which we invite these people specifically? But I'd personally like to get it on the books and get it rolling in whatever format it's going to be, and get some people invited and see if we can get some of this going.
I would leave that up to you guys. If you guys want to do a special meeting similar to our master planning sessions and invite HRA, the Riverfront Committee, and bring them to the room and do a special meeting for it, or if you want to incorporate it into the regular meeting and extend a regular meeting to accommodate a half hour, 45-minute, hour workshop, whatever you guys like to do.
I think a special meeting would be with what you just mentioned, with the group from the original planning committee. And from that, I think we could easily, Jennifer Bergman and whoever else, I think we could determine where we go from there, from that meeting. And then, you know, if there's any additional peoples that we would need to have attend at that point.
Yep. And I don't know if you want to determine a date now or if you want to wait till the end when we get close to adjourn.
How soon can we put it together?
So should we just do it?
Well, I think you have a good structure for us to start from, and then I think we can break it down into those bullet points that Kevin had mentioned, and then just start hitting each one of those, and then I think as we delve into each one of those, we'll quickly determine if there's additional expertise that we need to bring into it or not.
Do we want to schedule this now?
But we might as well just do it now since we're talking about it.
Agreed. 2 weeks?
The 6th?
Yeah.
December 6th, 4 o'clock.
Works.
So we don't want to have any of the other groups involved in our first meeting? We're going to make is that what we're saying?
I think we could invite Don Corman and Eric Roberts and John Foster. They had so much to do with this ever even happening that I think it would be wise to ask them to come.
Preface to that meeting also, Mr. Chair, I sit on the HRA, so I could certainly reach out to Eric Charpentier and just have them run it through their office, see if they have any concerns, and
Perfect.
I could bring that feedback back.
That'd be perfect.
So Riverfront Committee, you mentioned Jennifer Bergman, you want me to extend an
I
invite to
think
her as
so.
well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor Bedell is obviously welcome if you'd like to attend.
Well, I would love to attend.
I can tell. Okay.
Tim, we're just going to have meetings every week, so you never.
That's okay, I get to,
We're gonna squeeze every bit of juice out of you,
Burn
baby.
you out before you leave.
December 6th, correct?
I better wash my socks.
You don't even want to go to a race after we're done.
Okay.
Okay. Good enough. Let's move on to the discussion on the NCLI grant candidates.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So the DNR has it's called a No Child Left Inside grant. They have two different types of grants. They call them mini grants and then the larger grants. The larger grants are a little bit more of a hurdle for getting the funding, but the mini grants are pretty easy to attain. So talking with Katie and coming up with some ideas, we threw together a handful of ideas in the packet. In-kind match support is allowed. They do allow for that. Obviously, if we can put some funds to it if need be, that goes away, I'm sure, with the review committee. They do prioritize based on community focus, impact, programming, This is kind of a one hit deal too. Once you get this grant, you don't get to get it again. So that's the other part of this, is we want to get a good one if we're going to do this. And then it is reimbursed. So we would have to expend the funds first and then apply for reimbursement if we are granted the funds. So again, we've listed out a handful of different things. I think the first two were my two favorite, and through everything that we've kind of listed, I thought Katie came up with some really good ideas of ways to get people out in the parks with selfie stations, as well as that the nature play outdoor educational stuff. I thought those were really, really good ideas to get people out into the parks. But again, we can do one of the other. As long as we spend, it's up to 5,000 is the cap on the mini grant. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility to really get a lot of these done throughout the park system.
Okay. Comments, questions, concerns?
What is our deadline? December 7th. So we got to make a decision.
How many grants are we looking to apply for?
For this one specifically,
Yeah,
just the one.
just the one.
And once you get it, you don't get to come back next year and apply again. You only get one No Child Left Inside.
So would it be the
grant.
500 to 5,000 or 5,000 to 25,000?
We're looking at the mini one, the 500 to 5,000.
Could we do as many of these ideas as we can fit in the budget, or do we have to just submit one and do like just selfie stations or just something?
Without digging into the dollar amount, I'm guessing one of these ideas will probably eat up a lot of that 5,000. I think Katie mentioned in the one that like the nature play and outdoor rec one, Bemidji did the one that got about 3630. And I'm sure that was before all the inflation, so we might be pushing the $5,000 for just doing the nature play sections.
And then this is a match also, or not?
Nope, I believe this
Does
is
it
just a
have to be
grant.
Matched?
We would have to expend the funds, so let's say we get a grant for 5,000, we would have to spend the 5,000 and then they would reimburse us for the 5,000. If we wanted to add some matching funds to it, obviously they would recognize that, but they will only, if we're applying for the mini grant, they will only provide $5,000.
Okay.
So we could always do $10,000 if we wanted to in projects. Just understand that 5,000 is the max that they'll give us.
Okay, anyone?
Katie, sorry. What is your vision with the selfie station? That's number one.
It was just an idea I saw it at Cayuga on the but I think we do too. It's just Lone Park, you can expand the beach, and it's really beautiful there. And then obviously our newer the idea is, well, for Minnesota, they have like a hashtag where it collects a lot of these photos. Use the selfie station hashtag. That's the vision with that. Simple, very affordable. It gets people saying they're in our parks.
I actually really like the selfie stations. We were looking at that with another group downtown and some other areas. It's a way of pointing people in a direction. You know, we talk about moving people through the park or the pathways that we create. It's a way of pointing someone in a direction that you're interested in them seeing. So maybe they don't see that part of the park, but it directs them that way very inexpensively.
So how does that work? How does the selfie station work? I mean, is it just you using your own phone and taking a selfie?
Yep, they have directions on the actual selfie station. It's like just a little ledge, instead of having to to take the picture for you. You can put it up on this little ledge, set a timer on your phone, and then ta-da, you're in the picture with the park in the background.
So minimal maintenance compared to number 2, maybe a little more maintenance, but more hands-on. I don't know. I think they're both good ideas. You have to pick one before you file for the grant? You have to say what it is that you're applying for? Any other discussion?
Go ahead. I really like number 5. Just that's kind of our like shoestring park, and I feel like we could do that for pretty like something pretty cheap, and then maybe still do some selfie stations. I'm hoping a crank and some cable is not $1,000, but maybe that.
The first time until it's broke. That's not on Friday, it's not on Saturday. It will
To
be.
me, but
Yeah, I'll just share, as a younger individual, when we found police, stuff like this. We did have a couple kids lose a few fingers, so.
A few fingers?
Yeah, a few.
A few.
what kind of group did you run with?
They were very nice, Cub Scouts.
Yep, I'm sure.
Not just one finger, a
Gotta use
few
different
fingers.
handshake.
Well, I'm just gonna throw something different, just so we have nobody in agreeing on anything. I like number 6. I like the idea of putting in built-in bags into Triangle Park or one of those, just to try it out.
I'd just note that the further I got down the list, the more I liked them. So there were a couple in the middle there, the 2 and 3 that are okay. But once you got to 4, 5, 6, 7, those are all really nice, I think.
Why don't we just go for 25 grand then? Why limit to 5?
Yeah, because I really like number 4, because we're already planning. That was like part of our master plan, right? We kind of finished master planning for J.C.'s. That can be used in the summer or the winter. Because I would think once we had the trails there, then we'd be able to have it be a walking trail. And then we could throw in some selfie stations if they have extra money.
If we're gonna have selfie stations, I'm just gonna stand down there and charge $1 to take someone's picture.
Yeah, we could do that too.
The Troy station?
Okay, well, we have 4 different ideas.
Mr. Chair, I think I have a way we can figure this out relatively quickly.
Okay.
We'll put everyone's ideas forth. We'll go around the room. Each person gives everybody's idea a score. We total up the scores, winning score wins.
Doing more math, I don't know.
It's easy.
Today might not
1
be a
through
good day
5.
for math.
What do we got? We have, how many options do we have? We have the selfie station.
We have 7.
We have selfie station. Okay, that's number 1. What was the others? And somebody else liked the, number 4?
Or number 5. right?
Can we really build a ski trail for less than $2,500?
No, but if we did the 25,000. But yeah, you're right, okay. If we're only going for that amount of money, I don't think we can, right?
That seems impossible to me, but.
I think we had it in here, if I interpreting it right, that you would incorporate it into the ARPA funding for J.C.'s. Is that this would just
Oh, that's what it says, yeah.
throw another extra 5,000 into it.
Or we could make it really simple and we could just ask to have one of these included into one of our ARPA fund asks. I think we should go that route. That's my 2 cents. Throw it in with something else, see if we can get the money for it.
You mean for number 4?
Any one of our other ARPA fund asks, right? Because they're already pre-made for this, correct, right? Got the clearing works.
I mean, this does involve clearing.
Or do we want to vote on our little pet projects?
The clearing would be tough to justify in the grant.
Okay.
I know this is a lot of trying to get
What are the other
people
ones?
out into the parks. And then the campground would be tough. The beach might be, but they really like to see the programming type of stuff. So like snowshoeing. I can't remember the other ones where like she mentioned the one in Bemidji got the grant for the outdoor nature play type of stuff. Kind of getting that programming out there in your parks and getting people. I know that there's some schools that have used it for ice skates to be able to get people out on ice rinks. So there's a handful of
How's
different
our
ways
ice
to do it,
skate
but
gear
it's
at Gregory? Boom. How about that? New gear at Gregory Ice Skating. At the Gregory Ice Rink.
Well, if we did that, we could just split it between the two parks, I would imagine.
There you go. New skates.
That's a need we have anyways, right? So
Well,
instead
one
of
more thing to
creating-
think
Doesn't sit
about.
anywhere in any
Let's
of
make
our-
this really complicated. Don't we have a park that has nothing in it?
Yeah,
We have a park that has absolutely nothing in
It
it.
has grass
What are you thinking?
and a shed.
Well, we have a nature play and outdoor education. The only problem is vandalism with that stuff too.
$2,500 is not even gonna build that.
It'll buy a board,
It might, yeah.
get a gazebo board, Buster Dog Park. Okay, we have a suggestion for ice skates. We have somebody suggested, what was yours, Andrew?
The finger removing.
Oh, that one. That's a true story, by the way.
That's what scares me.
I can't. I say no to that.
We could try it this way. Let's just go right down the line here and pick one. If we get two that are the same,
Boom.
then we just go with that. How about that?
Works
Fair
for me.
enough.
Works for me, Mr. President.
Kara, start us off.
I want to do the skates.
One for
Any of the,
skates.
any of the supplies like that go with that, right? So you've said maybe like other things that we need for like pond hockey too, right? Talked about all the cold weather kid
Gear.
gear. Right? Yes? Okay. That's what I say.
Okay,
Oh, we didn't get that into the capital budget, did we?
Nope.
Andrew,
I'm going with Kara. The ice skates and
All right.
for the skates.
item.
So we're after, majority already wins. Two's already
We need one more.
I'll go with skates.
3 for skates.
Never even got a vote today.
You and me both. All right, we're going with
started well there.
can we do that?
I believe that would qualify, so we can include ice skates and
Winter gear?
winter weather gear for essentially all of our parks that have an ice rink.
Yeah,
Basically, as far as 5,000 will go.
Cool.
let's do it.
Is it possible that if we had extra money or boards laying around, that we could have the parks team or maintenance build us some selfie stations? I mean, I guess we'd have to like get the poster and talk about how that, but I mean, if we really love those.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to have much more than a sign. I know this one looked great because it had a photo of what it would be, but really it's just, I mean, you could put a couple of footprints on the ground and people figure out what's going on pretty quick.
Lakes could print us a laminated thing that we just, I don't know. If it's something we all think is cool,
Yeah, the most difficult part about it would be getting a poster, which would not be a very big deal. And then obviously lumber prices nowadays, but
Yeah,
no,
I
it's
know.
something that we could easily build in-house.
Next time we vote, can we start on my side?
Yes, we'll start on your side, Tim, next time.
what would you have chosen?
I would.
Lights for-
All right, so I think we probably need a motion on this, correct? All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to apply for the grant and ask for supplies for the kids' outdoor cold weather gear, skates, et cetera.
I'll second Jaeger.
Okay, we have motion second. Any further discussion? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Take
Thank
the
you.
next one, or you want me to take it?
What do we
It'll
got?
be longer than 10 minutes.
Okay, go ahead. Yep, I'll stick around for 10, but
Okay.
I'll start it and then I'll just slip out.
Very good. Yeah, let the record show that I'm taking over as chair at 5:05. Just so there's no confusion. All right, very good. Moving on to the next item is our discussion on lighting. James, thanks for attending your very first park board meeting. I'm sure you'll find this to be much less conflicted as your meeting last night, so please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So just a little background information on this. The Brainerd Planning Commission and City Council worked on a new zoning code these past 2 years. It was passed and went into effect mid-July. There are a few punch list items that we've been working on, things we knew that weren't going to be adopted into the new zoning code. One of them was a discussion on lighting, color, temperature standards. So we did hold a workshop regarding this, as well as discussion at the last Planning Commission meeting on the 16th. Planning Commission took a look at this. If you go to the next memo page, Planning Commission members were very interested in looking at color temperature standards and advised staff to take a look at other ordinances from cities. I looked at ordinances from a lot of cities of the same size, Grand Rapids, Bemidji, Moorhead, Fergus Falls, Detroit Lakes, Little Falls. They did not have any ordinances for this. I did find a city of Greenfield, Minnesota, which is a population of approximately 2,900, instituted this a few years ago. They really went and did a lot of research with the International Dark Skies Association, which is all about limiting light pollution within the city, knowing that some of these things can be harmful to humans as well as animals. So their recommendation within that was for 3,000 kelvins. So I did include a few of the example ordinances from Greenfield, Minnesota. I did get a chance to speak with the planning and zoning administrator from that city. So since they've instituted that, I think it's been well received within the city. There haven't been a lot of issues. The code did essentially apply citywide. So it was any commercial areas as well as residential properties, their parks, as well as their city streets. So within the city of Brainerd, we have a lot of entities that have stake kind of in these areas. So planning and zoning, they really take a look at what's happening on properties. So that's what's happening on residential properties as well as new construction. So that's something that I review when a new business comes in and wants to redo their parking lot. I'm taking a look at their lighting standards there. Zoning codes typically also encompass parks. I know you guys are working through master planning with that, and I know the new park, former city engineer Paul Sandy said they're trying out some new potential light poles on there. So the Parks Department also has a say kind of what goes into that zoning code as well. And then I guess the last entity would be Brainerd Public Utilities, which is all of our street lighting. So I know Paul Sandy was working previously with Trent from BPU and crafting a lighting policy for the city. They've been looking at light poles, what certain lenses can do to, I guess, cast light further out into the road versus into the sidewalk. What should some of our color temperature standards look like? Now, Brent, if you can go to the last page, here's kind of a good example of, what I'd be on the left-hand side, you'd be looking at, maybe about a 5,000 Kelvin light there, which is more of a daylight temperature light. And then on your right-hand side, you'd look at something that's more of a warm light. That'd be more in your 3,000 Kelvin temperature standards. Within the Greenfield, Minnesota, or within the Greenfield zoning code, they also kind of differentiated for recreational lighting as well. So their code that they wrote was for 5,700 Kelvin units for recreational lighting. Needing those lightings for ballparks, they have a different standard than what your typical maybe park path lighting would be. So with that, Planning Commission did task staff to talk to the Park Board as well as BPU to see if there was interest in creating essentially an overall policy within the city and potentially trying to get a work group started. We were maybe looking sometime after the holiday season for that, but first just kind of gauging interest and having discussion if the Park Board is interested in kind of creating an overall city policy. So with that, I can certainly answer any other questions the Park Board has.
Thank you, Mr. Gramvik. All right, any questions for staff? All right, no questions for staff, so we'll open it up here just for comments.
I think it sounds wonderful. It only goes right along with our plan of making everything kind of blend. Plus, I know like Gregory Park, the residents or that crew over there has given us feedback, with like lights from the warming house, like pointing at their houses, or, you know, if we had a different bulb, maybe that would be great. But how much, I guess I do have a question.
Yeah, please.
How much is it going to be to change everything then? Is it going to be like crazy to have to do like a total haul? Bulbs?
I can answer that. So the idea here would be, is that we would not mandate that all fixtures have to be changed. What it would say is that moving forward, as fixtures are replaced, they have to meet the new standards. So it doesn't mean that we couldn't ask for a 24 or 36 or 48 month period, as some cities have done that. But I think the idea here is that it would be a standard set moving forward for new fixtures. I'm sure BPU is going to have, or one of the talking points is BPU is going to say, we have a whole pile of these lights that we're intending to replace out that currently do not meet the 3,000. What do we do with those? And I'm not suggesting, I don't think anyone's suggesting that we throw them away or sell them on eBay. We just say that as we move forward and those lights begin to meet the end of their life expectancy, which is not forever, they're replaced with the new lighting standards. That's my understanding. James?
Yeah, so Greenfield did go pretty extreme. They actually regulated that all essentially city facilities as well as commercial would have to be changed within 3 years. I think from the discussion from the Planning Commission, Kevin was right on. It would be more of a, as fixtures are changed. I would even think that, if light bulbs have already been purchased by the Parks Department, you wouldn't just throw those away. But any future purchases would then, be part of that lighting policy.
But I wouldn't like to rule out a 36-month for just the parks. Just throwing that out there.
This sounds really cool. I'm on board with all of this. I think it'll make a big difference.
That's what I was saying before most of you got here, and we were talking before the meeting started. I mean, the difference is literally night and day. I mean, brightness and coolness or whatever. It's literally, look at that. Look, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, I'll just throw in my 2 cents. I'm a huge fan of this, and again, this won't make a difference in our city over the next 3 or 4 years. It'll make a big difference in our city in 10 to 15 years as these existing lights begin to phase out. I think, to me, the telling picture is the one on the right. You can see both light fixtures on the same street. There is the existing, or what I would say the older one on the left, at the yellower color. It's a nice warm light. It's okay, comfortable to look at. And as you look down the street, you'll see that the blue one is just blasting the neighbors in the street. So that's, yes, it's technically more lumens, but the light is just far more comfortable when it's in the warmer temperature range. And especially for parks, I would encourage all of us to drive home tonight and especially drive down 6th and look through Gregory Park. You will see all 3 temperatures lined up. And the current 5,000 light that's in the middle of the park just looks horrible. So I'm a big fan of controlling these, and I would even entertain the idea that the parks could be the entity that kind of leads the charge on this. And I'd be totally open to saying that the parks would put a 36-month mandate on our own properties for this. Of course, remember, this doesn't apply to ball fields. Ball fields still get the big, bright LED lights. But this would be for more of our softer lighting in our Gregory and Triangle and Lum and JCs and those types of areas. So that's my 2 cents. What are you looking for action from us, Mr. Kramvik?
So my thoughts tonight that there wouldn't be a potential action, but just consideration to see if there's a general consensus if the park board is interested in going down this road. And then my next step will be talking to BPU on this to see if they're interested. And I think I'd probably bring something back at the next park board meeting. If we do a work group, it'd be selecting probably 2 or 3 people to be a part of that work group of the 3 different entities to try to help formulate a plan for the city to then bring back for policy.
Very good. So unless I'm misspeaking, I'm going to say that we have a general consensus of support here, and we'll send that on to James to take on to further action. And we certainly appreciate you bringing this forward, Mr. Kramvik.
Thank
We're
you.
excited to see what this might hold for us. All right, and with that, I'm going to continue on to item number 7. This is our public forum. We're going to open the public forum at 5:15. Do we have anybody here who would like to speak? This is the time allocated for citizens to bring matters typically not on the agenda in front of us. Do we have anyone online? And we have no one in the house. So I'm going to close the public forum at 5:15, and we are going to move on to board member reports.
Oh, I have something.
Yeah, very good. Kara, please.
Garbage cans, it's kind of random, right? But I noticed like in October, the garbage cans all disappeared from Buffalo Hills Park, which I understand we were getting ready for winter. But winter wasn't happening yet in October. And we walk our dog and there's people playing and there's just like trash, right? And then I know there's an event in Buffalo Hills Park next week. This week? I don't know, I'm looking at you, but there's like a hayride. Oh yeah, it's in a couple weeks. Is there gonna be garbage cans? I guess it's just kind of weird. I know there's like no events really that happen, and I guess I am looking at Buffalo Hills specifically because I know other parks do have garbage cans still. But like, is that something we need to maybe discuss, like when we take our garbage cans away, and do we put them back if there's an event, or am I missing out on the garbage can standards? Or I'm just curious about that.
I'm hearing an agenda item here potentially, just to discuss this, or is
Yeah,
this
if we're in a hurry, yeah, maybe we add it to the next agenda, but. just
Yeah, we
something
can bring it to the next agenda. I think
Just
you're
general
spot
policy,
on
yeah.
That, yeah, once the winter season starts, that, I mean, between garbages and winterizing pipes, and it's just another one of those tasks that once you're transitioning out of that season, it happens at some point. So, yep, no, we can absolutely bring it to the next park board meeting.
Very good.
That'd be great.
Anything else, Kara?
Nope, that's all.
All right, any other board comments?
I've got one.
Oh, very good. Please, hand Mr. Shipe.
I attended a Brainerd Northside Association meeting with Jesse last week. It was mostly about the road construction. The Gregory Master Plan did come up a little bit after you left as well, Jesse. You dodged that. That's good. I guess in general, I was pretty disappointed with the discussion. You know, the Northside Association had come to this meeting. They shared some ideas. They wanted to partner with us. I thought that was great. We invited them to participate in the planning session in May, and again, when we reviewed this earlier this fall. And at the meeting, I learned really no one in the association knew this planning was happening. So I kind of felt like, you know, we've been trying to engage them, and they didn't engage and also didn't share this with any of their members. So that was a little frustrating. That it was good input, and I would have loved to have it when we were doing the master plan. So just to hear it after the fact, I'm like, oh, what's a master plan? They were curious and excited to engage, but just to not have that word get out at all was disappointing. So hopefully we can build that relationship more or something going forward, because they're engaged in the park and I would like their feedback. But yeah, so that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Shipe. Anything, Tim? Nothing. Nothing from me. So we're going to move on to our staff reports. Who's going first? Katie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Mrs. Kaufman.
Thank you. Just real quick, winter sports, youth pond hockey is open for registration. Adult 4-on-4 pond hockey open for registration on our new registration site and reservation site. So that's up with those. And then we are still taking warming house attendant applicants, but I am going to be starting to make the schedule. Tentative open date for the warming houses will be December 27th. And we'll be open a little bit longer during the winter break. So it'll be open from noon to 8 during that week. And I will be using a new staffing app to help schedule the warming house attendant workers this year. That's it. Thank you.
I purposely didn't say anything about Buffalo because I thought you were going to, and I was didn't want to steal your thunder, but hay rides at Buffalo, there we go.
That's more community. I think Community Action's
Ah,
doing that.
Dang it.
But
All right.
we support them.
Our association.
Yeah, so
I was intentionally not stepping on someone's toes. I just didn't know who it was.
well, I'll just jump in, Supervisor. It's the East Bank Neighborhood Association, December 9th. I believe it's 6 p.m. is when it'll start. We're good to go in terms of everything else, because that was a question that we wanted to make sure was taken
Yep.
care of.
So I talked with Sean and kind of prefaced it, so we should be good to go if we happen to get a bunch of snow, that he'll be able to help clear that out. But I think the only piece of it, and unfortunately I'm not as familiar with this event. I haven't been here for the last years, but just getting general park consensus that
Yeah,
we utilize the park and do campfire, right?
yeah, and I apologize that I don't know if an application was appropriate or not appropriate for this particular event. They don't really do anything other than potentially the fire pits and then just using of the parking lot. So it's not really an event so much as it is, the allowance of the fire pit. So I just want to make sure we're on the up and up on that before we get clarified. So as long as we have approval through staff, if you think that the park board needs to approve that, because it's actually Mike O'Day will be the one putting forward anything that needs to be put forward, but.
I think we're not really reserving any of the facilities, so from that perspective, I don't necessarily think we need an application for reservation, but like you mentioned, you're putting out fires out in the park. It would be good that park board's happy and kosher with us doing fires out in the park.
Aren't they doing cocoa and
Hot chocolate.
s'mores? Or,
Yeah, hot chocolate again.
yeah, and that's where you have the garbage can.
I think last year you did submit some sort of an application to us, and we in-house approved it, I believe.
Okay, so we'll
just-
make sure that that's taken care of. I just want to make sure that we're on the up and
Yeah,
up for
and
everything.
if there
so.
is need for trash cans, we'll need to know that.
Okay.
So, that's,
Okay, just so we're on the up and up. But anyways, December 9th, 6 PM, hay rides. There will be hot chocolate, delicious hot chocolate. I believe Mayor Bedeau made that last year, and it just rave reviews. The trick is,
Bailey's?
no, the trick is to get a bunch of hot chocolate mix and then put way more of the mix in there than you're supposed to. People love that.
Concentrate.
Concentrated hot chocolate. People enjoyed it. But this year, I believe they're going to see if they can get some of the houses along the pathway to have a little bit of a light contest. So yeah, just up the game a little bit. It should be good though. So last year it was very well attended. So hopefully it'll be the same this year.
Awesome. Be there. Thank you, Mr. Bedeau.
And has anyone really stopped at a half a teaspoon of chocolate mix when you put it in the thing? No. No, you put like 4 or 5 chunks in there.
Right.
And you got the really soupy stuff at the bottom. That's the best part.
Yeah, this was
Grit in the bottom.
This was 5 gallons of hot chocolate, and it was the math on it was heavy chocolate, heavy.
50% powder. All right. Very good. Mr. Dean, do you have anything to add?
No, so you have the maintenance reports. Generally, they've kind of transitioned out of winterization, like we were talking about, and kind of prepping for winter stuff. So lately, the maintenance crew is getting ready to start prepping rinks, getting ready to start flooding rinks. The temperatures are looking pretty good for it. The other thing that they're helping us out with is they're coordinating with BPU on holiday decorations downtown. So you'll start seeing those go up here really soon and ahead of the Christmas tree lighting coming up. So they're keeping pretty busy with that crew. So those are generally the couple things for maintenance. Kiwanis Park, I believe the Barada Brothers has moved in, started work in there. I don't think I've seen any of the exterior demo when I went through there yesterday, but that'll be one of the first things is starting to do that demo work. And they are still planned on December completion, except for paint. Paint will be spring. I did provide everybody a copy of the complaint with JC's Park.
That's nice.
I did respond to them, kind of inform them that here's our master plan that was approved, and that really enforcement it does fall on the police department when it comes to stuff like this, and they're doing the right thing by informing the police department when this stuff does occur. That's the right avenue for them to go. As for things like the gate, like they mentioned, I think I just responded saying, really that's up to the park board if they want to include something like a gate that doesn't necessarily fix a lot of these issues. You can still have vandalism and issues like that even with the gate, but it's ultimately up to the park board, and I just referenced tonight's meeting. So that was my response to them, and I don't know if it'll go any further from there. The boat launch road over at Lum Park Road, I had a conversation with Trent Hawkinson over at BPU, and he requested some clarification on that light down there, because I know we want to try and get a light down at that boat launch, and doing that ahead of our resurfacing project down there. Would the park board prefer an overhead line or an underground line, understanding that underground will cost us more to have that done? Because they would probably run the feed from the pavilion building, kind of in the center.
Underground because there's Frisbee golf nearby? That just makes me nervous.
Okay.
which one are we talking about?
At Lone Park, the boat launch,
Oh, we're getting a new light
talking
over
about
there.
putting a light over there at the boat launch to illuminate that. So, like I said, they can do overhead cheaper and faster, but they can do underground. It's just more of an expense.
Just to clarify, the city of Brainerd would be getting a bill from BPU for this lighting either way, right?
Yes, sir.
Understood.
Overhead sounds much cheaper to me.
This sounds like an agenda item, but what kind of number are we talking here?
He didn't specify exactly, but he said it would be a little bit more of an expense for.
I don't see any scenario in which we would want it overhead unless it was a lot.
Price.
So we don't have enough information really to make a decision on this, I'd say at this point, right?
Add it to the agenda. Yeah, this
can
is the
clarify,
first
and
I'm
then-
hearing of it, but-
Number of poles is the other piece. Do we just want the one? Do you want to illuminate the entire boat launch access road? I think just the one was kind of the intention originally.
Is this work, Mr. Dean, is this trying to be done right now?
We'd like to try and coordinate it in spring before they come and resurface the road.
Okay, so we got a little bit of time on this. I'm suggesting that we put this on an agenda and get us some more information to make this decision. Does that sound good, guys?
Yes.
Okay.
I have two questions. Were you done? Sorry, Jesse.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I never wants to leave, but two things I noticed. So the prepping for the Gregory for the wedding, is that, I know the pavilion costs $50 to rent. I think that's what they probably paid, right, for that? I'm just curious, I know every event, like Katie puts on Great Pumpkin, and obviously the team will help her prepare Gregory Park for that event as we put that event on. But when you add it as like a bullet point to what your team is working on, like what are they doing? Is it like hours of work for $50 in return, or is it just kind of caught my eye? Because I think we don't really have weddings there a lot.
Are you referring to the fee schedule?
Nope, on the maintenance report, it says prepping
GGP.
GGP for the wedding. I was just curious, like how many hours, or like what kind of prep work did we do?
I think it was more like cleaning and prepping it in that way.
Okay, just like
Adding
normal.
trash
Not like
cans.
setting up or decorating or anything like
Okay,
that.
so it's just like, okay, cool. And then you mentioned working on cameras under Kiwanis and the College Drive Bridge. Are we installing those under there? And I know I missed one meeting, but is that something we have under there? We have power and we have cameras under there now?
We do not. So
Okay.
this is a discussion that I had with Troy, and then I also opened this discussion with Sean Strong in our IT department. Through that discussion, I mean, ideally, that bridge is obviously a high traffic for vandalism.
Yeah.
So that was kind of high on our list for priorities for getting some security cameras down there. So there's some infrastructure limitations with that. One is connection to the internet. So talking with Sean Strong, we felt it was better that part of Kiwanis, we get that set up for security cameras, because we can put it would be the computer with the Wi-Fi in that building, and then we can radio for future cameras under the bridge. If we don't do it that way, we have to come up with a hotspot or some sort of way for those cameras to connect to the internet remotely from under the bridge, and that's going to be more of a challenge. So through that discussion, we felt that Kiwanis first helps us set up for putting cameras under the bridge.
No, it's really great, because in the past, we have talked and we've like had BPU give us like quotes, and we've tried to figure out the hotspot thing. We've had like multiple meetings about this, so that's great that if you guys figured something out, because obviously it's another line item that you guys had to clean it, spray paint it again, so it's good. Wonderful. That should be like one of your top things that you tell us. I think. That's
No,
like a
and
big
we're
deal.
going to still continue to work with the vendor to kind of
Right,
how this is going to set up that it'll work efficiently.
okay. So let us know when it's live?
Yes.
Okay.
It might be a couple years. We don't have
Right.
too
So it's-
terribly much in the budget for security cameras every year, but enough to at least try and facilitate a park.
Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you. Mr. Shipe, yes.
One question for Jesse, and I hate to bring this up again. You mentioned preparing the outdoor rinks. The boards at Memorial that were melting our ice last year, you weren't here for that. Is there anything we're trying differently this year with the boards to prevent that, like painting them black or, yeah.
I know I was talking with Troy about this one too, and he was looking into different solutions. That one's tough because on that side, that's where you're getting all the south-facing sun. I have not gotten a definitive answer
Totally,
on that
yeah.
one, on what there's a good solution there, but
I know, Jesse, I do know that they're putting like a sticker down or some sort of an insulator. So that's for sure at least one game plan.
It's embarrassing as hell. Spend all this money on these things and now we have slush in the middle of January. And who gets to hear it? The warming house dude. So we have almost over half of a hockey rink we can't use in the wintertime, as of last year anyway. So hopefully there'll be some sort of change that he can do, that Troy will be able to come up with something that's, will help. Can't be any worse.
Got to be a way. We'll keep working on it.
So,
All right.
really quick,
yes,
I did
please.
have a couple more follow-up things that the park board asked for. So I think Mayor Bedeau asked about reduction of the pole size over at Memorial Park for the lights, and if that allows us to maintain it better. So talking a little bit with Musco today, preferably they would like those lights mounted at 70 feet, which is even taller than I think ours are 64 or something like that.
Wait, speaking of the microphone, I thought they just said not to go that high.
So that was his, and like I said, you'll be able to grill this guy really well at the next park review. But he mentioned 70 feet is how they normally do it, and he talked about when you go lower. I mean, you can mount them lower than 70. Then you run into things like glare by the different angle of that light. And that, like I said, that guy is a super big expert on lighting and how that angle works. But bottom line. Lowering the height of the pole isn't really the benefit there, because once you retrofit it with the LEDs, essentially the LED fixtures become maintenance free. I mean, you have the warranty period, which does cover everything top to bottom, including the contract to come out and replace it. But the fixture heads themselves, you really don't do anything. Everything's actually done out of the controller box. And they mount that at about 15 feet up. I think the bottom of it's at 10. So everything you're really doing with maintenance at that point is out of that box. You almost never have to go up to the top. I think he said it's happened so rarely that you actually have to go there once you've retrofitted those. So you can reduce the size of the pole, but there's not really a benefit, and he actually prefers to have them higher up yet. And the other thing that the park board did request was some of our revenues from softball and kickball. So you'll see it in the financial report in here that we generally bring in a little over $50,000 in revenue every year. But through expenses like personnel services, like our temps, our umps, other operating supplies and things like that, we spend about 3/4 of it. So we're not making a ton of money at the bottom line. We're making maybe about $15,000 a year. Like if you look at it this year, we're going to probably net about $15,000 by the end of the year. So just wanted to make sure that you guys could see that in the financial report, because I know it was requested of how much are we bringing in through those programs for those fields. And that's all of the fields. So, I mean, I guess the easy way to do it would be 2/3 for fields 1 and 2 if you wanted to do it that way.
Better than $0.
Thanks, sir. That's all I had.
Very good. Thank you. James, first park board meeting. You got something, right? You got to have something.
Nothing to add.
Dang it. All right. That will conclude staff reports, board member reports. So unless there's anything else anybody has, Mr. Scheib, please.
Can I briefly amend my board report? December 17th, I forgot earlier. December 17th, 2 p.m. at Gregory Park, Christmas Carol sing-along event.
Ooh.
Also hot chocolate. I make no promises about it because Mayor Dave is not making it.
I
so.
can teach you the tricks. It's called buying more than you need. Still putting it in there.
There you have it, guys.
Yeah, we'll have choirs from the North Brainerd area. So come out, sing Christmas carols, have fun.
One more time, where was that? When and where?
2
Gregory
p.m.
Park, 2 p.m.?
Gregory Park, December 17th.
Got it. Awesome. That's it, guys. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do you want a motion to adjourn for until December 6th, correct?
That's correct. We're adjourning to a December 6th meeting. It will be here. Here. Yep.
Downstairs though here, or like right here?
Probably here. It's probably gonna be a fairly good-sized group, round table out there, maybe.
I
I
think
don't
if you want to have
We'll go here.
Park Board and
BPU.
BPU and Riverfront Committee, I think just as well, it's in a bigger room.
Very good. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, we got a second. All, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, guys.